Welcome to We Are Soccer. Today I'm joined by Jeremy McCall. Jeremy is a licensed mental health clinician with over 10 years experience working with individuals, couples, and families to manage life's difficulties. I'm interested in Jeremy as a certified performance coach. He helps kids, he helps people overcome anxiety, he helps them become better players from a mental aspect. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Finally, I get to get famous.
Yeah, I don't know about famous, but you know what? I think this is going to help a lot of people.
Hope so.
You and I just to kind of put it out there, you and I played together 15, 20 years ago now.
Years and years with the Carpathia Kickers. I'm sure we'd partied at some Dona Schwab in as well.
Yes,
That
sir.
was my heyday. I loved it. Loved it.
Oh man, oh man. And I tell you what, you and I saw each other a couple of months back. Our sons played against each other.
Yeah.
Your son is a hell of a player, man. He is a baller. So that was awesome to see.
Yeah, my wife's a great athlete, and he gets it from her.
He got that feather touch from you, man. You used to have you're a big fella, but you had a very nice touch. So he gets some of it from you. All right, listen, um, help me out here because I have a 9-year-old son, and he goes through some things on a soccer field sometimes where if things don't go right or if things just don't go as he expects them, or they lose a game or loses a piece of the game, he gets really flustered and he starts taking on his teammates, or he just, I don't want to say erupts, but becomes a little bit emotional. Is this something you see and deal with a lot?
Very, very common. And my background, I started this work with primarily with hockey, and I got really engaged into the hockey world. And what I found in sports like hockey and sports like football is very scripted, and so it's a little bit easier for players to have a routine. What's going on when when players have issues with anxiety, it's typically there's no script for what do I do when I mess up on this pass, on this play at this point of the game. Whereas if the pitcher gives up a home run, we have a ritual and routine to erase that out of the mind, to get right back out there, to get back on the mound, or to get back as the quarterback or whatever position it is. With soccer, and that's the beautiful part of the game, is it is so there's a lot of freedom to it, and so that's naturally going to breed some anxieties when challenges come about. And so what I work with soccer players on is making sure we have some type of a ritual when we make the bad pass, not if, but when we make the mistake, what do we do next? So that way they have some kind of footing.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Um, is there a certain age where you start to notice this anxiety or emotional
Yeah.
bubble kind of come up?
It's interesting that the age is getting younger and younger, and I was surprised by that myself until, like you said, my son's also 9, almost 10, and seeing that out of that age was kind of surprising to me. But we see it in the school, and we see that a lot of students now, anxiety is just a part of the lexicon. It's just a part of our world right now. People are more anxious in general, and so then I think that's why we see it in our game. And at a younger age, the pressure is a little bit higher than when it was when we played.
Yeah.
I played with all the neighborhood. Shout out to Troy Soccer. Y'all know who you are. And so now it's on my son's team. We have probably out of 10 players, we have 7 different school districts, 4 different counties represented. It's pretty widespread.
Is a lot of this pressure on the kids? Is it projected by parents? I mean, I hate to say it, but back when you and I were, 9, 10, 11 years old, our parents didn't play, right? So they didn't have this expectation and this pressure, and there wasn't an A team and a B team and a C team and all this extra training. Is a lot of that pressure put on these days by the parents and us not knowing how to talk to our kids and help them or coach them through anxiety?
Definitely. I think that we developed this system, and I think it's gotten bigger. We've talked before, and I know you guys have had some great shows about it. The system that we've developed, it has developed a better player. These 9 and 10-year-olds are way better than you and I ever were at 19 or 20. Like
Yep.
they are just, it's amazing to me. But where we're lacking is that emotional piece of they're still 9 or 10.
Right.
These are still the same kids who crawl in bed with us at night. This is still the kid who, sleeps with his blankie.
Yeah.
And so we have to respect that and remember that when we're going out, joining these big clubs. And for some kids, it's not that big of an adjustment, maybe an easier adjustment. But for some kids who pay attention to their surroundings and they're looking at the energy of the adults around them, they're looking at the magnitude of they don't know the dollar amount, but they can tell that their mom, dad spent a couple dollars on this, and the pressure rises for them, most definitely.
Is now when a child or an athlete comes to see you, we'll call it a youth athlete comes to see you, is this something you kind of go through several sessions with, depending on how severe the anxiety is? Is it something you kind of sit down and chat with them? Do you kind of get a ball? How does that work?
Yeah, well, definitely. See, with my background as a clinician, I look at athletes through the lens of as an athlete coming for some type of whatever performance issues going on. But in the back pocket, I know that there could be a mental health component. There could be some clinical anxiety, clinical depression going on for whatever's going on in life, and separating that is very key because the interventions are different. And
Sure.
so when I have an athlete come through and that they're experiencing that, we go through an assessment. So we look at where's the source coming from. I talk to the parents. If possible, I like to go. I have an office. I'm in the lab right now. But I like to go right to the field. I like to meet right up at the pitch, talk with the coach, see the culture of the team, see how they interact. And that'll help me really pinpoint what do we need to do for this youngster to help them move through this. It's a really simple fix once we figure out what it is and where it's coming from.
Sure. That's unbelievable and unbelievably awesome that you do that. You go out to the field, you kind of watch, you assess, and then you talk to people and because right, it's all through the betterment of the child, right? The betterment of the
Yep.
player and the kid. I mean, we both know that most of these kids, 99.9% of these kids, they're not going to grow up to be professional athletes. They're going to grow up to be human beings just like you and I in the work
Yeah.
world. But this could manifest and take over into that sort of that piece of their life as they grow up, right? So performance is going to be there, whether it's on the field or in the boardroom or
Yeah.
anywhere in the workplace. So that it's awesome to see kind of taking care of it and shaping them as they grow up and helping them. So it kind of weeds it out, I guess, is the way I'm
Yeah.
looking at it.
Yeah. It's funny. I had I work a lot with hockey players. I had a hockey guy leave out of here. The next client was a business guy, and it just looked odd. And people, the difference is like, okay, so how are you working with this guy and that guy? And it's exactly what you said. That performance is the same, right? That hockey player eventually he's going to go into the business world and he might
Yeah.
struggle with some of those big business decisions
Yeah.
and big family life decisions. And it's very related. You're right.
Do you work with professional athletes or we'll call them older,
Yes.
kind of late teens, early 20s, people who are still
Yeah.
dealing with this stuff?
That's where I thought that's where I was starting. I said I most of my experience was with professional athletes initially, and I thought that's where that's where I was starting. And I said elite athletes. I work with elite athletes, and then I got a phone call from an 11-year-old, a parent of an 11-year-old, and I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm elite athletes, and I was blown away at one that some of the kids are ready for me at that age.
Hmm.
Some of the kids are really geared in the things that I'm laying down. It's not too heavy. They get it and they take those skills and they thrive. And so I realized that no, I can't put an age on this. This is all the way. I think my oldest athlete is in his 50s.
Wow.
So it's golfers. We have a lot of golfers who are looking for that edge, that mental edge in golf, and I help with that also. So yeah, it's a wide range. And initially, I thought it was just going to be that 20 to 25-year-old, maybe going leaving college and going into professional ranks, but it was not like that at all.
I might be coming to you for some golf help. Yeah, Can you help with my
Ah,
swing as well?
come
My
on.
swing, no, not just the mental side, not the actual. Okay.
I can't do anything for the swing. I can't help the swing. I can help with as I look at your selection over your shoulder there. I can help out with your selection, and I can no, I can definitely help out with the mental part of golf, the focus, and
Yeah.
really knowing which iron to grab.
Let me ask you a question. All right. So I know it's impossible to do it in one session. It's impossible to do it in 10 seconds. But if, like my son, he gets a little anxious going on the field before a game starts, or he gets nervous and he's not for sure he can perform, what's something I can
Yep.
talk with him about? Or is there something I can say, listen, it doesn't matter about the wins and losses. I just want you to have fun or do some breathing. What do you recommend
So
a
two
couple minutes
things.
before a game?
Two things. One of my phrases I tell parents all the time: when I'm drowning, that's not the time to teach me how to swim. And we do that often. We see our kids struggling. We see them in an anxious moment, and we're like, okay, well, let's do that skill that Jeremy told you. Let's do this, this, and this. And typically, it's usually too late. They're drowning. They just need help at that point, right? And so we just
Yeah.
come in and rescue. Um, so a lot of my work starts before that, and so I tell parents, if you know you have a game at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, it starts the night before with the sleeping routine. Did we get a good sleep routine in?
Right.
Did we get a good breakfast in? And a lot of kids will say, well, I don't want to eat breakfast. I can't do the food before competition. And I understand that, but we got to get some type of a smoothie. We got to get something in there so
Hmm.
that there's fuel for you to fire on when it's needed. So that's the first thing. That's number one, is getting those routines down, and then talk with your athlete about the build up to the game. It's usually an arousal issue. We're too amped up, we're too ramped up, ready to play. Or we have the kids who maybe look too chill. They don't even, they forgot there was a game today, and they were just, they were just showing up right before game time. So following, trying to get them on the right routine, trying to find what works best. Is it eat now, eat later? Is it eat a little, eat a light? And working with families on that. It's a systems approach.
I've noticed you said the word several times now, routine, and
Yeah,
that's it's funny because you talked about golf, and I said I need help on my golf. Actually, a couple of months ago, I was watching some YouTube videos, and it was some professional golfers who've won big tournaments, and they kept saying the same thing: routine. Get to the golf
yeah,
course at a certain time. Eat something very similar to what you ate before. Go through the same swings and the same routines. So I'm noticing
yeah,
you're seeing that same thing, and it's and now you're right. I've probably got to get my kid into bed at the same time, and he's got a game the next day. Make sure he gets up and eats something, the same routine.
yeah,
I've never been a full routine guy, but I was just able to roll out of bed and go and have fun and play. But I guess
yeah,
my son and a lot of other players these days, because of the pressure we talked about earlier being on these kids, they need routines, and I would really help them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just routines and coaching them along the way. Um, the other thing I'm big on is breathing. We don't realize how difficult it is to perform at your best when you're not breathing properly.
Hmm.
And so a lot of us do a lot of shallow breathing, and you'll be able to see it in their neck area. You'll see like he may be as he's breathing. If you look around the neck, you'll see a lot of the shallow breathing upper chest area. What you want to do is get the breath from the gut, from the diaphragm, and take really deep breaths. So I tell my athletes it's inhale for 3, exhale for 5. And you do that, and you'll watch a calm come over them. You'll see it in their eyes. That's when you have them where you can actually teach the skills that we're talking about. So then I can say, okay, now let's work on this aspect of the game that coach wanted you to do in the warm up. Let's talk about, whatever the game plan is.
Right. Wow.
You got to get that anxiety down.
Yeah, that's so, there's routine, there's eating correctly healthy, there's breathing correctly. There's a lot more to this than I thought, man. And I know a lot of
Oh yeah,
parents
it's
are going to
deep.
watch this, and they're going to ask the same questions. So this is great. I know right as this video ends, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up all the information for anybody to get a hold of Jeremy here, because this is super valuable information. And I know a lot of parents these days, they're pushing their kids. They want the best of their kids. They're looking for a college scholarship. They're looking for whatever to get their kid to the highest level. And it's little things like this that can really help them perform at their best, right?
definitely. And I used to be against all the pushing them to do this and pushing them to get there, but it's like it's just like anything else. If this was the robotics team, I think we would all put the same effort and energy into it. If it was the reading club, we would expect a certain level of diligence, a level of commitment. And so, as parents, as coaches, I'm begging them, put me in, coach. We need to have this mental performance aspect added to our teams. The MLS was ahead of the curve a little bit. Each team has a mental performance coach. EPL, they've had it for years.
Yep.
And I think in the EPL, it's almost every player has their own, and it's very intense in Europe. I have a basketball player in France. He's playing second division French basketball. They have two on staff, and so it's just a common thing. And it's a slow trickle to the Americas, but we're coming. We're coming.
Yeah, it's getting there and it's needed. You're absolutely right. Last piece from me, Jeremy, before we cut out here. I believe I saw some Facebook posts last year. It looks like you do some bike riding with your kids, and man, you're exercising. Yeah. So now you're eating right, you're getting into a routine, you're doing breathing exercises, and you're doing activities like bike riding with your kids. I'm telling you, I saw your son play. He's got some skills. He's an athlete. You got someone who could go pro right there, my friend.
It's
doing it for him. It's great.
It's competition. Competition in the McCall house. We compete for everything, and that tour to Oxford is all about competition. My boys have been doing it for 8 years. Wow. Actually, about 7 years now. Since he was 2, we've been riding around, and it's just a fun activity we do together. Because you're right, that recreation part is huge of any athlete. You got to have fun, and we do a lot of recreation activities. So, yeah. You can stay tuned. We're coming to a town near you.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Listen, man, I really appreciate it. We're going to have to do a check back in probably later in the year. I want to get tryouts done. I want to get the season started. And then I want people to realize they can reach out to you. So what we'll do is we'll put your information at the end here. And Jeremy, man, this has been eye-opening and just so awesome to see and hear. And I hope people, I know people are going to find this really helpful and it's going to help kids.
Well, thank you. And I'm sorry that one last thing about the tryouts. I've had a lot of parents reach out last year at the end of tryouts. I got a lot of afterwards, both positive and negative results from the tryout. I get a hold of me before too. I can help out before the tryout. I want to make sure they understand they don't have to wait until the result. We can work on it, building up to it. But thank you so much for having me on. And again, we really, as an audience, as a fan, we really appreciate what you guys are doing, bringing soccer to the common man. So we appreciate that.
I love that. You're welcome, man, and thank you. And that is a great call on the tryouts. Yeah, parents maybe need to have a phone call or a session with you before tryouts to calm their kids down. And you know what? Some of the parents are going to need some sessions.
That's the other part. That's the other part.
So listen, man, appreciate it, and we'll check back in soon. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Cheers.